Marc Marquez was dominant and operating on a completely different level, delivering a performance that reminded the entire paddock why he's the man to beat in the 1T25 MotoGP World Championship. Riding for the Ducati Lenovo team, the 8th world champion stormed to a commanding victory at the Tisot Grand Prix of the Czech Republic on Sunday, July 20, further strengthening his grip on the championship lead. It was a race that once again showed the number 93's racecraft, composure, and crushing pace, a masterclass from start to finish. Marquez secured his 8th victory of the season with a winning margin of 1.7 seconds over Marco Bezzecchi, who delivered a stunning ride for Aprilia, racing to finish second. Pedro Acosta, riding for Red Bull KTM Factory Racing, completed the podium in third, fending off a fierce final lap attack from Francesco Bagnaia, Marquez's teammate at Ducati Lenovo. As the lights went out, it was Bagnaia who got the best start from pole position, launching cleanly into the lead. Marquez wasted no time and immediately attacked at turn 3, sliding past momentarily before running wide at the next 2 corners. That mistake allowed Bagnaia to retake the lead, and Bezzecchi capitalized as well, moving into second and pushing Marquez back to third, with Fabio Quartararo and Pedro Acosta closely following in 4th and 5th. As the opening lap came to an end, Bagnaia ran wide in turn 13, leaving the door wide open for Bezzecchi. The Aprilia rider took full advantage, overtaking Bagnaia at turn 1 on lap 2. Moments later, Marquez followed suit, diving underneath Bagnaia at turn 3, pushing the Italian back to 4th. But the chaos wasn't limited to the front. Just as the attention turned to the Ducati intra-team battle, an incident occurred further back involving Joan Mir of Honda HRC Castrol and Alex Marquez of BK8 Gresini Racing. While attempting an aggressive move for 6th, Alex collided with the rear of Mir's bike at turn 12, sending both riders crashing out violently near the end of lap 2. The crash was reviewed by the FIM MotoGP Stewards panel, who later issued Alex Marquez a long lap penalty to be served at the upcoming Austrian Grand Prix. With the dust settling, the battle at the front raged on. Bezzecchi, now leading, was under heavy pressure from Marquez, who began chipping away at the gap with every passing sector. For several laps, Bezzecchi held firm, riding defensively and controlling the pace. But on lap 8, the inevitable happened. Marquez made a clean and clinical move at turn 3, reclaiming the lead with absolute authority. Once in front, the Spaniard didn't look back. He continued to hammer down blistering lap times, extending the gap and crushing any hope of a counterattack. Bezzecchi tried to stay within reach, but the Ducati rider was simply too strong. Instead, Bezzecchi had to turn his focus behind him, with Pedro Acosta now closing in and ready to pounce, lap after lap. Marquez stretched his lead, controlling the tempo of the race with effortless precision. Behind him, Bezzecchi managed to hold off Acosta and settle into a rhythm. Acosta, meanwhile, kept the pressure on, especially as Bagnaia started to reel him in during the final stages. But Acosta held his nerve, defended perfectly on the final lap, and secured 3rd place, his first MotoGP podium of the season, and also his first as a full-time factory KTM rider. It was a breakthrough moment for the young Spaniard, while Bezzecchi celebrated his 2nd podium finish of the year. Adding to his earlier success at Assen, Bagnaia, despite leading the opening lap, had to settle for 4th. He mounted a late charge on Acosta, but couldn't find a clean opportunity to pass. Just behind them, Raul Fernandez delivered a career-best ride with the Trackhouse MotoGP team, crossing the line in 5th, a sensational result and his strongest performance of the season so far. Fabio Quartararo came home in 6th for Monster Energy Yamaha, struggling with rear grip in the final laps, while Jorge Martin fought back from a difficult qualifying to take 7th for Aprilia. racing after a gritty and determined ride through the pack. Brad Binder secured 8th for Red Bull. KTM Factory Racing, followed closely by Pol Spargaro, who was standing in for Maverick Viñales at Red Bull KTM Tech 3 in 9th. Jack Miller completed the top 10 for Prima Pramac Yamaha after a quiet but consistent race. It was a disappointing afternoon for Enea Bastianini, who looked like a podium threat in the early stages. The Red Bull KTM Tech 3 rider was running 4th. When he lost the front at turn 3 on lap 7 and crashed out of contention, throwing away what could have been his best result of the year. Elsewhere, Fermín Aldegor of BKA Gresini Racing was hit with a 3-second time penalty for irresponsible riding. The incident stemmed from a risky overtaking maneuver on Miguel Oliveira of Prima Pramac Yamaha on lap 6. Since Aldegor failed to serve a long lap penalty during the race, the stewards converted it into a post-race time sanction, demoting him to 11th place in the final standings. With another resounding victory in Brno, Marc Marquez tightens his stranglehold on the championship. He now leads the standings with 381 points, an incredible 120 points clear of his brother Alex Marquez, and a massive 168 ahead of Francesco Bagnaia. At this point in the season, it's no longer a question of whether Marquez will win the title, but when. His form, consistency, and mental strength have been unmatched in 2025. And Brno was just the latest chapter in his near-flawless campaign. Marco Bezzecchi's second-place finish moves him up to 4th in the championship, overtaking Fabio Di Giannantonio by 14 points. Meanwhile, Pedro Acosta edges closer to Franco Morbidelli in the battle for 6th overall, now trailing the Italian by just 15 points. As the riders prepare to enter the summer break, the momentum is clearly with Ducati, and especially with Bagnaia, and especially with Marc Marquez, who is riding one of the most dominant seasons of his career. The 2025 MotoGP Championship will resume with round 13 at the Austrian Grand Prix, scheduled for August 15th to 17th at the Red Bull Ring, with just 8 rounds remaining. The pressure is mounting, but for Marquez and Ducati, the road to glory is clearer than ever.